Hello everyone, welcome to the Vintage Side. In this video, I will be showing you how I make this black dress. The material that I am using is actually a tablecloth I got in a thrift shop. The first thing I need to do is unpick the edge of the tablecloth. It is hemmed on all four sides. As you can see, I have already started doing that. I will then iron the material. I will also iron all the pattern pieces. Then I will come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, I have all the pieces ironed and I have ironed my material as well. Now, I did mention that I was going to make the black dress, but as I've been looking through it, I prefer the short sleeves of this floral one. So I'm going to be making this one, which has the shorter sleeves. All the pieces are here, which is great. The person who originally had this pattern has cut the front and the back pattern pieces in two pieces. So these were attached here like this. And I'm doing a terrible job of showing you what that actually looks like. Let me get organized here. So this is the back and they've cut this off and they've done the same on the front. I don't like adding sticky tape to pattern pieces because when you go to iron it, you have to avoid the sticky tape. If you accidentally touch the sticky tape, it crinkles up. It just ruins the pattern pieces. So what I will do is be very, very careful when I am cutting these and make sure that they stay together. I will weight them down a lot and I will possibly pin them as well. Although I usually don't pin when I'm cutting because I find it lifts up the material. So I will weight these a lot and be careful when I'm cutting out. The skirt for this pattern is in 3 pieces. There is another thing as well. This little corner has been cut off, but when I'm cutting, I can easily just follow those lines and that won't be a problem. I have also gone through and measured myself and checked the pattern to figure out what size I am. This pattern is a 1 size pattern. According to my own measurements, I am this size. Another thing that I know of myself personally, and this is something that you will get to know over time if you do sew clothes for yourself, you will get to know your own body really well. I have an extra long torso section, so sometimes I find that where the waist is on the actual garment, it's not where my waist is, and I will have to tweak that a little bit. Okay, so let us cut to footage of me cutting out the pattern. Cut. Was that cut too many times? Anyway, moving on. I have gone through and pinned together the bodice of the dress and I have done a quick fitting. Everything is fitting really well. The order for this dress is sew the front, then the shoulders, then put on the collar and the front facing. Next, the sleeves, and that completes the top bodice section. Next, sew the skirt, gather the skirt, then attach the skirt to the bodice, and your dress is then complete. I'm going to start sewing the bodice. I attached the collar and the facing using a straight stitch on the sewing machine, and then I have overlocked the raw edges. Now I did clip the curves before I sewed it on the serger. The serger has 4 threads, 2 of them are a straight stitch and the other 2 are a looper, one that loops at the front and one that loops behind. And because the looper is flexible, it does not restrict the movement. So when I turn this the right way round, those clipped seams on the curve will lie nice and flat. I am now going to turn all of this the right way round and iron it flat. So the next step is to insert the gusset that goes under the arm. One thing that's really important when sewing a garment is to make sure that you pay attention to these little tiny triangles which appear on your pattern pieces. Most of the time they're triangles, sometimes they are slightly different shapes, but that's so that they then correspond to a matching shape on another piece, which is where they need to line up. On this pattern piece, you can see the notches have a number. So this number corresponds to a number on another piece. If you can see, oh, I've got it upside down. Here we have number 13 and that matches with number 13. We've got 2 notches there and we've got 2 notches there. And here we have number 14 and that matches with this number 14 down here, which has 1 notch. So it says to slash here. This line through the center I will cut on my material, and that will be the space where this piece goes. Then the other side of it, so we've got 2 more numbers, we've got 15 and 16. They relate to 15 and 16, which would be on the back. These are the 2 gusset pieces that go under the arm. I have added the notches to each side. I have done a tiny little cut so that when I sew this with the seam, the cut won't cause any problems. The skirt panels for the front and the back have now been sewn together. The next step is to gather the feature that is at the back of this dress. I have a method for gathering which I have used for many years. Firstly, I take the piece of material that is not going to be gathered and I quickly find the half and the quarter and I mark those out using pins. The skirt panel is for the back. This is the back of my bodice. I know that it is going to need to fit within these 2 seams, so I will just roughly fold that in half and that gives me my half, and then I will fold each of those to find the quarter. So I have the 3 points pinned out there, and I've also got the end, which is another point that I can use for reference. So I'll just move that to the side. And I'm going to do the same thing on the back panel for the skirt. Here are the points that I have marked on the back panel. And now I'm going to join them up with the pins that I put on the bodice, marking the quarters and the half on that. Now that I have joined up the 1/2 and the 1/4 points, I can gather these areas. I have sewn 2 lines of stitching using the sewing machine, and I released the tension, so the stitching is quite loose and it will be very easy to gather. And I've done 2 lines in case one breaks. I've always got the second one and it won't unravel all my work. Now that I have gathered part of this, I will start pinning it down so that I know that I'm getting my measurements right. That's one side done. I'm now going to do the other side. To finish the edge of the sleeve, I am going to encase it in bias binding. This will give a nice neat finish and there won't be any visible seams. After letting the dress hang for several days, I am now going to hem it. The reason for letting skirts or dresses hang is to allow the material to drop. So the material has a warp and a weft. It is created with 2 threads that run across each other, one horizontal, one vertical. The threads in the material will adjust themselves with the aid of gravity. This will create any unevenness before you hem it, and you can then trim those areas so that you have a nice straight hem. I tried on the dress with a petticoat underneath it so I could see how the hem was looking, and there was a few low spots and I trimmed those off. To hem the skirt, I will be using bias binding. Bias binding is material that has already been cut on the cross, so it then has a little bit of give in it, which is useful when you're hemming circle skirts or dresses that have a circle skirt, because it can allow for the curves that are in the hem. I will be pinning this onto my hem with right sides together. You can see that in this bias binding, on the inside of the material, it has been folded to meet in the middle. I will open up those folds and I will use one of the lines as a guide for sewing it onto my hem. Once it is sewn on, I will turn my hem under and I will hand stitch the bias binding into place. This will give me an invisible hem which will not show on the outside of my skirt. This dress is now finished. The last thing that I did was to complete the side closure. I chose not to put a zip in the side. Instead, I have used press studs and decorative buttons. So the dress will be held closed with the press studs. And then for some decoration, I have added these pearl buttons, and I have just added a little looper, and that will keep the flap closed when I am wearing the dress.
I can't, the wind's blowing. Take 5. You recording? Okay.